The MoneroTopia Price Report segment is sponsored by Exolix, a privacy-focused, non-custodial instant crypto exchange. Go to Exolix.com to enjoy secure and completely anonymous swaps with no KYC or sign-up. Swap between Monero and 2,000 plus assets at the most competitive rates and with no limits. Exolix.com, your fast and secure way to privacy.
Hey, what's up, guys?
GM, buddy.
GM. Bro, you've been doing all your research on the meme coins.
Doug's seen the gains and now he's interested.
Meme coins coming to Monero.
Dabble, man. I don't have the time. I don't have the time to put into it. That's why I don't trade either, man. I actually don't enjoy. Obviously, everybody likes winning when you see the number go up.
It's stressful though, and it's time.
But overall, the whole thing, the winning with the losing, and just knowing that you've committed time to it, it's not for me. It never has been. I don't know why. Same like I don't go to casinos, like, or if I do, like, because there's social events where family or whatever. I don't even like gamble. I don't really even enjoy the process.
I love gambling, but if you're gonna play it right and you're gonna play it to win, typically you have to sit there and be patient. Like if you want the poker table, for example, you have to sit there and be patient, and you have to sit through the up and down swings, which sometimes can last days or weeks at a time. Or like if you're gonna go do blackjack, same story.
I love the concept of gambling and the adrenaline that comes with it, but I gamble in different ways in my life, not like actually. You know what I'm saying?
So you're driving like $120 down the highway all the time? Is that your? You ride a motorcycle?
Just with projects and life decisions and going all in and betting big, but in ways that it's not just a pure.
Doug's a gambler at heart.
Yeah. I get my
you're
kicks.
An engineer, bro.
I think that's why I get my. What's that?
You're an engineer. You understand math and numbers. You see the tantalizing promise of returns for free. You didn't have to do anything other than a little bit of math and some odds. Forget about it.
Yeah, that's why I play the lotto. Yeah, but I mean, it has been fun to watch the number go up. That's for sure.
Yeah, we hit we had like 230.
Yeah,
we actually Barted this week. We Barted, and then Roger got on to Tucker's show, and maybe that's what saved us. I don't know. Here, let's go down to 4 hour.
Narrow mention.
What is a Bart? What does a Bart represent?
You know Bart Simpson?
Yeah, no, but what does that usually mean? Like that it's going to keep going up, or?
It just usually means fuckery. It just usually means that some big liquidity whale got in there, fooled everyone. It was going to the upside, and then just rugged. You can also have inverse Barts, right? That kind of do this number. But yeah, we got Barted. And then go ahead, man.
What I was interested in, because when I saw the crash happen, we knew that Roger Ver was coming on already, and there was kind of rumor that he would be meant. So like it was like there was a sell-off before he came on. Obviously, it could be completely unrelated, but it felt like it was like the crash before the pump. Like it literally happened. I should have looked right before
the exact broadcast moment. I don't know. Maybe you can get onto Twitter and look up Tucker Carlson.
It crashed the night before he was coming on. It was like, and everybody was like, what the fuck? Is it getting delisted again? Da, da, da. And then Roger comes on. It's like, no, actually, it's going to pump, guys. Tricked you. Like, so what was that all about? Is that like just a way to kind of grab some coins at a local bottom and try to pump it from there?
I mean, low liquidity
Thanks
coins.
for panic selling, guys.
This doesn't make me comfortable about these gains being totally organic. Like definitely there's an organic component here. I wouldn't pretend otherwise. But it does make me worry about how much of this is being sort of pushed up and down. And maybe some of this pump had a front running component, because again, as we've talked about so many times, the exchanges, in this case, Kraken primarily, most likely, and maybe KuCoin as well. The exchanges see the liquidity moving onto their platform. They see the orders, and there are front-running bots that operate on these exchanges. Maybe not Kraken. I don't know. It's like, they got attacked by the government, and so I wonder, like, we hear from the people running the exchanges, the regulated exchanges, they always talk about, we have the regulators behind us kind of in the back room saying, hey, nudge, nudge, why don't you do this thing? And so they kind of have to walk this tightrope sometimes. Maybe that's just what they want us to think. There's probably truth to it. But anyways, the point is that, yeah, most of these crypto exchanges have proven themselves, Coinbase, to do like very kind of tricky, insidious things. And one of the things they do is front run. So when orders get put in, they can do like micro front running, like just before your order executes, their order executes. Like if you're going to buy, they buy a little bit beforehand. And in aggregate, right?
Almost
when
like
you're
a
talking about
MEV
hundreds of
attack.
thousands. Oh, what?
It's almost like an MEV attack.
Yeah, exactly. Sandwich, MEV bots, stuff like that. Yeah, there's MEV bots are all over the place in Ethereum. It's well known.
Yeah.
But they've been on the exchanges for a long time because it's still basically the Wild West out there. So anyways, I think there's probably some in this chart, in the Monero chart we're looking at here, I think there is a component of that, most likely. So
What you're saying is it just looks really inorganic, which I would agree.
Yeah, like these kinds of movements, where was the top to bottom? Yeah, that's a 32%.
That was such a weird day.
But it's like I said, it's felt like an intentional crash before Roger Ver coming out on Tucker Carlson and announcing Monero to 2.5 million people.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, probably somebody knew or had a good idea, and they probably kind of yanked the markets left and right, up and down for that. You can even see it here on the Z-score charts. So, right, we're looking at all of the other coins basically, and Monero in red crashed way more than everything else, and then rebounded back to its normal price. So, yeah, I mean, that was just fuckery right there. That whole thing's someone in the background, some big liquidity whale, or who knows, right? Just messing with the price.
We do a little trolling.
Man, they did good too. They got it all the way back down to 155. Like
that's like the median. It's like the 2-year median price.
Yeah. Yep. They tried to make us a stable coin again, and we were like, everybody that watches Tucker, they saw Roger talk about Monero. They went and smashed the buy button like right there.
It's obviously, a shitty stable coin now. It keeps the pegging from its 155, but to the upside.
Yeah. The only stable coin that has upside potential. Oh, haha. I kid. Wouldn't it be nice to get to 500 stable coin at the 500 area? That would be like really what we all want to see.
Ooh, that'd be nice.
I mean, the reality is that like we're at these wave magic levels, we're at these like the blue bands, the upper standard deviation. It's going to take some time to beat these. And in fact, this is actually a pattern I'm seeing across a lot of coins right now. A lot of coins have hit very clear levels in terms of the standard deviations, and everything's kind of a little bit in a holding pattern right now. A lot of pumpage happened, and things are still, I guess, it might just take some time before they need to go up. It's difficult for me to think that this would be the end of the bull run here, right? Things have just gone too far to think that, okay, it's time to pack it in and have everything crash down.
It feels like this should be a good time for Monero at this point, like, right? Like we're kind of like the market is plateaued, Bitcoin's holding steady. This should be where Monero like traditionally catches up.
Yeah, in the past we've seen that. I feel like there's this extra level of focus on Monero now, where the cabal really wants to do what they can to manage the price as much as they can. Maybe they got Kraken in on fractional reserve, right? Maybe they'll manage that better than they managed the Binance one, because Binance was so bad at it, like they just didn't give a fuck. They were like, whatever, don't just shut down withdrawals for the plebs. They don't need Monero. Let them eat cake, not Tux's cake, but a different cake, Marie Antoinette cake. Anyways. Yet I digress. Yeah, so I would imagine that if they're going to try and fractional reserve, which they might already be doing that. Like Kraken has been a good player so far, but they also got hit by the government in the past few years. So we really don't know what kinds of deals might be being made in the back room. So it's a possibility. I'm not accusing anyone, but it's something that should be in your mind.
Possibility that Kraken's about to ban Monero, about to delist
No,
Monero?
Possibility that Kraken is doing fractional reserve.
Which is worse than just banning it outright, because instead that allows them to continually control the price.
Yeah, exactly.
Or suppress it more specifically.
Yeah, I mean, we could get we could get into this into a later part of the show, but I've been kind of talking up this idea of now is the time to get Monero relisted on exchanges. I feel like now is actually the time to try to move in that direction.
We just need one of
Given
our
the
legal,
political
lawyer,
atmosphere.
corporate Monero bros to start a new exchange that's Monero only.
Yeah, there you go.
All of our legal, corporate bros in Monero. There's like 2 of them.
New York based. Get the bit license.
Yeah, who do we have to
I want to
bribe in
go.
New York?
I want to
You
go
can
on a
open a
mission.
CCS for the bit license cost.
I want to. Well, I'm thinking of maybe opening up a CCS to try to eliminate the bit license in New York. I think politically that could be done here.
Really? I wouldn't have expected that.
I mean, there's no reason why. Like, why should New York like? There's this whole push, right, to turn New York around now. We have Trump coming into office. He's part of his "Make America Great Again" is "Make New York Great Again," right? You want to not get left behind in the times. You want New York to be the crypto capital of the world. You got to get rid of the bit license. It's like that's the first thing you should do. That's just
did a
it's
red
just a stroke
wave,
of a pen.
Did a red tide sweep through New York this past election? Was there a lot of Republicans?
Yeah, red wave everywhere, right? To a large degree, there were parts of New York that should have seen more of a red wave that didn't. But I think the wave is still building. We have a governor's race that's coming up in 2 years. I think maybe for the first time we could see a shot at like a New York Republican governor. We get a Republican governor in, I think we could eliminate the bit license.
Man, that would be crazy. New York hasn't had a Republican governor since like forever, huh? Or was Giuliani Republican?
Well, he was the mayor. We had Pataki in. Yeah, I guess that was like 30 years ago now. It was a long time ago. It was when I was like a teenager. Yeah, Pataki was our last. He was our last Republican governor. Yeah, I was like probably like 13 years old. Yeah,
I guess Crimson Tide really is an appropriate term here. It's a sea change happening apparently because, yeah, if 30 years ago that was the last Republican governor, and then you get one this election, that probably signals a much larger sea change happening.
Yeah, and in that, in combination with Trump being in office on the federal level, I think you could see some big changes. Like I know, this is like, especially right, like Body, like I know you, right? You're definitely more of a pure agorist, ignoring politics, ignoring the criminal organization that is the federal government. But I think there's opportunity there to try to shift things here and take advantage of it.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. I'm holding out what I feel is a delusional hope that some really good changes could happen. Yeah, I'm hoping, I mean, I feel like if nothing else, concessions are going to be made. They need to be made. Even if Trump and all of them are totally compromised, they still have to make some concessions to keep up the appearance of being. But if they go above and beyond the kind of like bare minimum that needs to be done, I mean, I'll be happy about that. And I have some hope that maybe that does happen.
All right, brother. I'll let you take it away with price, and then we'll have Abdullah Khan coming up to talk about the Noto.
All right on. Yeah, so like we said, things are in a holding pattern here. Monero on the daily chart, you can see we're effectively contending with some resistance at the obvious areas here. One thing I do like right now is the XMR versus gold chart. So I like that we have such a big obvious standard deviation level right here to target, to sort of eyeball with the green dildo that happened, and then this sort of like, I don't want to call that a hammer because that's not precisely a hammer, but this wick down, they're covered. We'll close the candle tomorrow, probably somewhere around this level, maybe a little bit higher, who knows. But yeah, this does look like an easy place to hope that XMR does another, like 50% versus gold. Hypothetically, maybe that could just be because gold crashes. I don't know. But let's hope that because Monero pumps. Hypothetically, if we were to go, that would be 40 to 60% higher. So based on the XMR gold chart, if gold stays steady and we were to go another 40 to 60% higher on the USD chart, that would put us right at these upper standard deviation levels right here. I don't know how easy that is for you guys to see, Yeah, I mean, they're barely, so I do filtering, right? I do filtering on this chart, so it's not always entirely easy to see, but this is like the very upper highest standard deviation level that you could draw on this chart, or cluster, I should say. Anyway, so yeah, that would put us, that would also put us, let's go to the weekly. This is getting too busy. That would also put us at the white line right here. So this guy right there. Let's do that one more time. Yeah, 40% would have us tagging the underside of this white line, which happened, which started way back here, back in the good old days, back in 2016. Yeah, this line starts from there. We tagged it again, and it's weird because we kind of just pressed through that line as if it didn't exist, almost as if we were like a stable coin or something. Usually, especially in a bull market, usually what I've seen with lines like this, like big eyeball lines that everyone is looking at, you almost always come back to at least tag the underside of it. And many times I see charts that come back and just smash through it, and then go higher. So yeah, I mean, it's a good thing we had Roger Ver. So a little bit of a shout out to Roger here. In the past, I've been, he has some sus in the past, I guess, he who has no sin cast the first stone or whatever. I think maybe a lot of us do. Anyways, in the past, I've heard him talk about Monero, but he'd always qualified or like some kind of conditional, or, it was always like, I always felt like it was kind of like a backhanded, compliment to Monero in a lot of cases. In this case, I was actually really happy to see it. I'm not one to hold a grudge either, but he like unequivocally was like, yeah, Monero. He was like, Monero, it's a good coin. Here's a few other privacy coins I kind of like, but Monero. The way he said it, there was no qualifications, there was no conditionals, no equivocation on it. So anyway, shout out to Roger. Maybe with a little bit of visibility on Tucker, we can get our number grow up. Yeah, maybe there's something to be had there. Anyways, we can get our number up, we can get the dollar signs in our eyes, and we can all become degens like the maximalist. Why not? In a bull market, win in bull markets. Okay, maybe we should take a look at the ratio. We always look at the ratio. Yeah, that's, again, we had this like red dildo, and then we came back. Hypothetically, guys, this is looking a bit like stabilization here. Normally on these kind of patterns, like I told you guys before, normally these kinds of patterns, they'll tend to tag the underside. After it starts curling down, you'll tag the underside, and then you'll just ride these red bands down. That's what we've seen in the past. That's what I've seen with Wave Magic typically. Again, guys, this is a reason why I tell you, I don't trade Monero. I don't trade Monero because I know how much nefarious fuckery exists in this chart by, I really think, big people in the cabal. Like, they really don't like Monero. They don't want you holding it. They don't want you buying it. They don't want you using it. And so they just do stupid shit. Like, they invalidate a lot of TA. A lot of times it still works, but I just, and then I combine that with sort of like this emotional attachment, I have towards Monero. It's not very enlightened of me. But like this emotional attachment I have to Monero, I just feel like, nah, I'm not going to trade it. I can trade other stuff. The emotion thing kind of gets in the way a little bit, because I hop on the horn here with you guys, and I want to tell you, what I really think. And if I'm trading in and out of Monero, right, and I'm using it for making money, like, it's going to affect, I don't know, it's just going to affect a lot of stuff, and I don't want that to be the case. There's more than enough other coins to trade degenerately. So hopefully in non-degenerate trading, we've got Xano. Roger mentioned Xano actually on the Carlson show as well. So it's interesting that Xano didn't pump, right? Xano actually went down for the entire week. We're on the 4-hour chart here. Let's go to daily. Yeah, Xano, I guess Xano went up a little bit, but yeah, it actually kind of has come back down since Roger had his appearance on the show. So I don't know what's up with that, but he did specifically mention Xano. Nevertheless, fear not. It is tagging these upper purple standard deviation prime. We're not going to talk about what that is. Just know that it's a cool statistical concept that I invented. I don't know if you're supposed to do that, but I did. And it seems to work pretty well. So anyways, yeah, we're hitting the underside of this. Everything's curling up. This is actually still quite a bullish chart. Hypothetically, this thing could still come down here and do that. It might not need to do that at all. If it did, that would actually maybe be even slightly better for it. Maybe not. Yeah, probably not. Actually, it would just be better if it found support right here and then kept going up. So if you're the master and controller and commander of the Xano price, you probably want to use this as your spot for, supporting the price there if you're a whale trying to convince people to get in. Okay. Firo had a big ass candle, big green dildo here to tune of like 125%. So yeah, cool. Somebody's buying Firo. I don't know which one of you, but one of you's buying Firo. Darrow, I should just remove this chart. In fact, If you guys want to throw into the comments or something, if there's another privacy coin that I'm missing that would be better than Darrow, it's like pointless to even look at Darrow now. Like, this is a project that's probably just going to die. Yeah, it'll have pumps. It'll never go to 0.0000. It'll always have some kind of value, but it just won't matter at some point. Anyways, this is the absolute, like, this is the lower standard deviation level. Who knows? You know, we talked about maybe Darrow can like somehow cobble together a pump. It has failed to do so. It's difficult to imagine why anyone would really be speculating on Darrow. Like, why would anyone do that? There's so many privacy coins in the space now. New ones like Xano, old ones like Pirate Chain that still have like the anarchist following, right? And the Jeff Berwick anarchist following. Most, you know, I would say that's most of Pirate Chain support there. Yeah, they're actually not doing so well either. Like, Pirate Chain has kind of been still like bleeding out. Like, they had their big pump. You know, they took the elevator up and now they're kind of taking stairs down. So I don't know what's up with that. Zcash, again, just like everything else, kind of trending sideways here. Had a little pump. It looks like Zcash kind of barted. That's the daily. So Zcash has a slight BART pattern here on the daily. Let's go to the 4 hour. Yeah, I mean, that's not too much of a BART, but it is a little bit of a BART. Yeah, anyways. Yeah, Zcash was also mentioned by Roger. Okay, so let's take a look at Bitcoin, and we're gonna start looking at total now as well, because with the Bitcoin dominance, actually we'll start with Bitcoin dominance. Why not? We're kind of in altcoin season, so go to the weekly big eagle eye picture here. I know we've covered it quite a few times before, but just remember, this was the beginning of the bull market. Sorry, not the beginning. This right here, like this whole thing was the beginning of the bull market last time, and this right here was the beginning of the bull market this time. I don't know if any of you have a keen eagle eye for charts, but this is much lower than this. So I see a trend here, right? I see a trend where Bitcoin dominance just is not, it didn't peak out at the same level that it did in the last bull market. So that should be fairly unsurprising. You know, maybe this chart, just really hypothetically thinking, you know, brainstorming, not making any predictions, but maybe this chart, with the way that it's developing, this chart might actually be one that sort of consolidates volatility. It might do something like that for some period of time. Could be a few years. That wouldn't surprise me, because this low right here is such a strong low, right? That's such a, it spent so much time there, and that's going to be really hard to get below because there's so much horizontal support at that level, and people are going to be looking at that. And in aggregate, I mean, it does seem like the Bitcoin dominance chart, for the most part, does the things you expect it's going to do around the time frame that you expect that it's going to do that, right? The bull market kicks off, you expect this chart is going to crash down to the downside. You know, at least back here in 2020. And then same thing right here, right? Bull market's kicking off in Bitcoin, solid new all-time highs, monthly close above the all-time highs, like unequivocal close, not just like barely closed above. So, you know, we kind of expect this chart, if the bull market's going to continue, this chart should continue towards the downside, right? And it seems like Bitcoin dominance tends to do that. One thing, another kind of way that you could draw this to sort of visibly show this like decreasing volatility. Let me clear the wave magic. We could draw something like, man, maybe that wouldn't be quite right. Are we on logarithmic? We should not be. Why am I always log on that chart? For whatever reason, TradingView just wants to default the chart to log every single time I have to check it. Anyways, yeah, what you might notice here is that we could, if we're going to draw dubious pleb lines, right, we could just draw some dubious pleb lines here. And we might be able to say that, hey, at the moment, it looks possible that some kind of decreasing volatility on the Bitcoin dominance could happen. So anyways, just kind of some future thoughts for you guys, if, you know, for you trading degens to play with on your own time. Here's the Bitcoin USD chart. This is the daily candles. And we can finally start drawing a little bit of pleb line TA on this thing. So we're basically in this rising channel. Bitcoin is going in this rising channel. The thing that you'll notice here is the long-term purple bands. Oops, damn it, I drew that badly. Control Z. Okay, draw this again. Yeah, these long-term purple bands are right there, right where I drew that yellow line. That's where these, like, the upper standard deviation, the prime upper standard deviation, is kind of like limiting out the price right now, and that's definitely something that you expect to see typically. I mean, in a super bullish scenario, resistances don't matter, right? It doesn't always mean the case that any resistance has to be respected or obeyed, but right now Bitcoin is definitely obeying these kind of like this kind of long, slightly longer term bands right here, and it appears, again, it's still riding these lines up. So Yeah, I mean things are still looking fairly bullish. I think was this week 1205? No, I guess that was 10 days ago. Yeah, so we didn't make a new all-time high this week, but I mean we are now above 100,000, right? We're holding above 100,000. Psychologically, that should be somewhat important, I think. Because there was a period of time where like, can we make 100,000? No, we can only make 99,821 or 8765, whatever. Like we couldn't quite make 100,000, and it fell back, and finally it looks like we're starting to hold above 100,000. So psychologically, that should be important, right? That should help things along a little bit. Hypothetically, if we're going to break out again, it would seem a bit weird to me for Bitcoin to smash up to the upside soon here, but I guess maybe it could. If it did, I would expect these purple bands. That would be extremely bullish, right? To smash sometime this week or next week to the upside, maybe like a Christmas pump or something. Smash to these purple bands here, and then like ride the upper side of this sort of like topping this current upper channel resistance line. Again, that's just, don't take it too far, guys. It's just some ideas about how things could happen. That would be a very bullish way for things to play out. I'm guessing markets still, I mean, it doesn't make sense to me that this is the top. Then again, maybe that could be a reason why it is the top, right? Okay, take counterintuitive counter trading to its maximum possibility. Here's another reason why I think that the markets aren't done running. Look at this white guy. This line in white is Link, and Link has been pumping lately. And for whatever reason, Link does seem to precede pumps, and Link seem to precede pumps in the market in general. Probably because Link is like this cross-chain coin. Like it's kind of like Tether. You've got Tether on Sol and ETH and Tron, even on Bitcoin. Wow, even on Bitcoin. Link is also one of these other coins, that has a footprint in a whole bunch of different chains, right? It's called Link because its intention is to link with oracles a bunch of different chains. Yeah, I know it's centralized and they can screw with the oracles, and they have screwed with the oracles, and they have liquidated people or prevented liquidations from happening by deciding not to update the oracle for like some narrow window of time. Yeah, anyways, so Link has been doing well, so it kind of makes me think that there's probably still more gas in the tank here for this bull market run. Okay, we're going to look at total for a little bit. Total was a little bit delayed behind Bitcoin, obviously. I mean, yes, it came up with Bitcoin because, 50% market dominance. But yeah, then we saw kind of more and more pumpage going on with the altcoins. And right now it seems like it's sort of entered this holding pattern. We're on the 4 hour. Let's go to the 1 hour candles. The shorter time frames that you get on the wave magic, the more you have to be careful that it can just get crushed to one direction or the other. But yeah, you can see like, okay, we had this like kind of topping action here after the past week and a half, and then you hit the level that you basically expect to hit, right? The lower standard deviation. But again, this is a 1 hour chart, so it's still pretty useful. You could do the wave magic on like 5-minute charts, but they don't really hold up that great a lot of times because the 5-minute chart is really small price movements, so it breaks quickly often. So yeah, anyways, the point is that on this chart with total, I would kind of expect some period of oscillation here. So I mean, I think the direction is still up, but in general, like it feels to me like it could be drifting up, like we could be drifting up to the top side, or things could just press sideways. Feels like a little bit more consolidation time is just needed in general for the crypto markets to continue doing things, to continue pumping. Let's not get that today. Okay, let's look at Dixie, the dollar index times gold. It's still like, it's a very useful chart. I know that people like to divide one asset towards the other, but when you have an index that's anti-correlated with an asset, like the dollar index is anti-correlated with gold, typically, multiplying them together actually removes a lot of the noise and helps you see the real trend. Especially with an asset that's a bit manipulated like gold, it's a good idea to multiply them together and just help to remove that noise. Anyways, yeah, you can see effectively gold is actually continuing to pump relative, like in terms of this chart, gold is continuing to pump. And the reason I say that is because the dollar index has actually been pretty strong, right? The dollar index since basically since the beginning of October, the dollar index has been quite strong. It went from 100 to 107. That's actually it's not the greatest sign, to be honest. It's really not the greatest sign. We saw something similar right at the end of the last bull market, where the dollar index was already pumping. So yeah, but when you take into account the fact that the dollar index has been pumping, and you factor that in, which is effectively what happens when you multiply the dollar index by gold, you can see that gold is actually, even though gold has been flat, gold has been performing quite well because the dollar index has been pumping, and usually gold has negative pressure when that happens. So you can see that in this chart. It's actually quite clear in this chart, and this chart is bullish, right? This chart looks like it just wants to continue riding these purple bands towards the upside, towards glory and victory. So yeah, you know, I'm not. That doesn't mean necessarily that I think gold is going to pump in dollar terms here. It's still difficult for me to envision how exactly gold is going to pump in dollar terms here. Obviously, anything can happen, and you know the markets can get moved by whales. Perhaps at some point people start taking their crypto profits into gold. I feel like maybe not as many people do that as I think they do, but I feel like that that should happen. We're going to take a look at this chart right here. This is the S&P divided by the total currency in circulation. I saw one of the another price bro doing this recently, and I thought it was an interesting chart. But we're going to hold off on that. We're gonna actually check the rest of the macro really quick, and we'll go to that chart. Maybe finish off on that chart. So yeah, as we noted, Dixie has been going up significantly. I know that from 100 to 107 sounds like a stuffy old balding guy, you know, talking about bonds and shit. But that's actually a really big move, right? The Dixie from 100 to 107. I know it feels like only 7%, and technically, but that's a really big move for the dollar index. So yeah, that's been pretty strong. That, you know, again, it raises an eyebrow. We're still all of the metrics to tell us that yes, the same patterns of previous crashes are here. They're not like the crash is not here yet. Like how can I rephrase that? That's probably poorly phrased. Anyways, like we're seeing all the same signs, everything's unfolding, but I guess macro just likes to unfold slowly. So yeah, the yield curve is correcting back to normal. We actually had a pretty big spike up today. I don't know if you can see that down there. We'll expand. So the yield curve is fully, completely not below zero now anymore, and it's continuing to spike up. This chart overall looks like it's an uptrend. Okay. But like the crash is not happening. It's not incipient. It's not here yet. You know, we're looking at a big window time frame, right? We're talking about months. So funny enough, even bonds even spiked up. That would be crazy. Like maybe this time it's different. If some weird shit happens where bonds are like spiking up uncontrollably, you know, and the yield curve is still correcting back to normal, that would be crazy weird to see. And that would signal that this time it's different, right? If some because normally we'd expect to see bonds crashing towards the downside as the yield curve, you know, spikes back up and uninverts. That's been the historical pattern. So, you know, maybe something is different this time. Maybe they're pivoting to tariffs. The Saudi agreement, right? The Saudi agreement has gone by the wayside now. They're selling oil for euros and yuan or something. I don't know what the splits are on that, but the point is the Saudi agreement was not renewed, and so we are entering kind of a different monetary paradigm. Ever since the I mean, was it what year did they do the Saudi agreement? It was like they severed the gold standard at 71, and then they got the Saudi agreement and did the petrodollar. So we're like pivoting now into a different type of dollar. I think it's the Bitcoin tether dollar is part of it, right? I don't think that's the whole thing, but anyways, yeah. So we kind of do need to keep our minds open here, not get too locked into like, oh, the pattern happened this way 4 times in the past, so it has to be the same. Especially since it seems there's kind of like a new monetary paradigm that is slowly emerging. So NASDAQ, okay, that's bonds. Yeah, the NASDAQ, the stocks, everything went up this week. NASDAQ made a new all-time high. Actually, the S&P did not make a new all-time high, so okay, whatever. Anyways, it's still like basically sitting at all-time highs. We're going to talk more about the S&P and a way of looking at that I thought was pretty cool. Reverse repos are still looks to me like they're trending down here. Okay. You know, on this chart, it might be possible that if we see something like this happening, that would actually probably be another big sign, right? Like maybe these don't ever hit zero, right? Maybe the reverse repos never hit zero, but then people start getting scared, right? Big institutions start getting scared. They pull their money out of the stock market and say, hey, let's go to reverse repos, right? Let's do that. That could also be a big sign. Just again, keep in mind, it's not necessarily up or down. It's violent moves in the bond market. And you would think of reverse repos kind of like the bond market. It's not really. Technically, that would be bad linguists. That would be a bad way usage of language. But the effect of what they do and what they are, very similar to bonds. Like it's very, very similar to bonds. So anyways, yeah, if we see violent moves in the bond market, that's your cue that things are getting close. Things are very close, but they're not quite close at the moment. Okay, so we had some inflation numbers. Surprise, surprise, core inflation is sticky at 3%, 3%, it looks like. So, yeah, I mean, the Fed is expected, they're meeting this week, and they're expected to, I think, lower rates again. I think that's the general market sentiment. We're going to get another quarter point drop in the interest rates. So that should probably fuel some more speculation. That should fuel more borrowing. More borrowing equals more printing, equals price pumps. So, yeah, I mean, you know, and here's another thing to keep in mind. People talk about the December effect, the January effect. The idea is that people will cut their losers in December and then they'll rebuy them in January. And that was actually a very useful thing for us back in 2022 because there was this bear market and everyone had losses. So it's like you would really expect the market to not do so great in November, December, because everyone is realizing their tax losses. They're tax harvesting their losses at the end of the year. Well, everything's up, right? Everything's gone up. So no one really wants to sell at this particular moment. Because who wants to sell and then pay the tax man, right? Nobody, especially if you think there's probably more gains on the way. So we're not going to have this January massive, you know, the January effect where things pump because everyone rebuys because nobody is going to sell anyways. I say nobody, but right, I'm speaking in generalities here. But yeah, we're not going to see probably significant crashes from people selling their stocks because no one wants to realize the tax gain and have to pay the tax man next year, especially if Trump is here to eliminate the IRS, which he, you know, made us all believe is about to happen. So yeah, hopefully that is about to happen, but I'm not holding my breath. All right, so finally, last chart we're going to look at here. This is the S&P divided by the currency in circulation. FRED is the Federal Reserve of Erectile Dysfunction. I don't know what the ED stands for. Anyways, yeah, if you look at some of the guys that work there, probably. Anyways, yeah, so what we're doing here is we're saying, what is the total amount of money just floating around in the atmosphere, in the monetary atmosphere? And we're going to divide the S&P by that because you imagine, obviously, if there's more money floating around, then some of that's going to go into the S&P. And we look at the S&P because it is an index of the top stocks for like 150 years. Like this chart goes back 150 years. This particular chart only goes back to like 1917 because obviously the Federal Reserve currency and circulation can't really go much farther back than 1913. Hint, hint, for those of you that study monetary history. Yeah, but anyway, so this is a very interesting chart because you can see all the blow-offs, right? It was the 1929 blow-off, and this was your like echo boom blow-off. This was the 60s. This was .com. And then, and looky, right? Look what's happening here. We are actually, in terms, again, relative to the total currency and circulation at this moment, we are currently at like a macro high. Or I say we, you know, for anyone that has S&P 500, I say we on a lot of shit. So don't read too much into that, right? Sometimes I just say we for no reason. It's like when people say our government, like our government. I didn't vote for those guys. Anyways, yeah. So we've got like this big macro top. So in other words, the S&P relative to all the currency in circulation, the S&P is significantly higher than it has been for most of its lifetime history, relative to how much money has been printed. So it's like the S&P has gone even farther than you would expect, right? It's just like smashing gains, and people are just like stampeding to the entrance. Usually you talk about stampeding for the exits, but everyone's just fucking running for that entrance, trying to fit through that same door. And yeah, so this chart is actually still quite bullish. We could even turn on the wave magic, take a look at it. Oh, I need to multiply this by some very large number. That should be large enough. Yeah, so this chart is pretty bullish. We're looking at monthly candles here. Obviously, this is like a very, very long time frame. It might need to come back a little bit. Like my thinking here on this chart is that if we get some kind of macro crash, like maybe this continues up for a little bit, and then we get a macro crash that will land like right there. So I feel like the way that things are unfolding, they're just pushing the pedal to the metal, to use an 80s cliche. And I feel like this is going to continue. It's difficult to think that this won't continue for some period of time. Again, these are monthly candles, right? These are three. I just switched to the 3 months. So these are very long time frames, right? You're looking at decades and decades right here. So maybe we could just smash down to the weekly a little bit and take a look at the shorter term wave magic, see what's going on there. Man, maybe we need to go to the daily. Yeah, because sometimes you need better resolution over the near term. What's happening? Yeah, I mean, this is just extremely crazy bullish, guys. Like, in fact, I wish I had seen this chart sooner. Now that I think about it, if I had seen this way of looking at the S&P, this is one of those things where it's like if you can get creative with the way you look at charts and compare two assets together, and there's obviously hundreds of ways you can do this, right? You could divide by gold. You could divide by the total market cap of global liquidity. You could divide by bonds. The point is that if you really want to get deep into trading, and I don't quite do this as much as I used to, but you really want to look at one asset compared to another, like we've done with the Dixie times gold. We're doing the S&P divided by the total currency in circulation. What you want to do is look at charts and then say, okay, paint a picture, right? And you're kind of looking at a pinhole at any given moment, right? You're kind of looking linearly because that's just the way our brains work. But you want to try and say, okay, what does this chart look like? How does this compare to other charts that I might like look at the S&P in different ways? And you really want to try and find common themes and paint a picture that has congruency. It's not always the case that the markets are going to be congruent, but when it is, that's your opportunity, right? In this case, you can already see these bands curling up, right? And this was back earlier this year. So we're looking at 2024 right here. But yeah, the purple bands are already curling up. And I mean, it's just so beautiful. Like this thing is just, I mean, in some cases, you find a chart that removes noise. And the Dixie times gold, that's a chart that removes noise to help you to see the actual trend. Because the people, the cabal, the guys that are the finance bros that are sort of manipulating these charts in a lot of cases in the background, they hide their misdeeds with counter-correlated assets and counter-correlated mechanisms. And so they will obfuscate the way the chart pattern looks by hiding that money somewhere else for a period of time, sometimes liquidating positions, confusing the market, and then going, a direction people didn't expect. But it's a lot harder to do that. It's like they can't hide everything, right? Like they money has to flow somewhere, and the evidence of that will show up in various charts. And so I'm thinking this is one of these charts that we can see that kind of action, because this is just like very, very clearly bullish action. Like there's no question about this chart, about how this is played out. This is still bullish. I mean, it's obviously make it continue to run. I think it's likely to continue running here at least into probably the new year. I'm actually now looking more towards January if there's going to be a macro crash. I was thinking maybe it could be December. At this point, I don't think December's going to be. That just doesn't make any sense. The signs aren't unfolding that way. Okay, got to be flexible. You're in your positions. Hopefully, you bought the bottom and you kept some hodl in there. Even if you're trading on the side with some other stack, hopefully you've kept your hodl, that 1/3 we've talked about, 1/3 to 1/2. If you're a trader, that is. Some of you are just perma hodl. That's fine too. But yeah, like be flexible. We had a bull market that came kind of earlier. I think earlier than a lot of us expected. We didn't probably expect to break these all-time highs this easily, it's quickly, but it kind of makes sense. So you're just still hodling. You're still waiting for a good top. Again, if you're holding shit coins and you're getting these crazy gains and you have life-changing money because you got a 20x on some meme or 100x on some meme coin, again, fucking sell that, guys. Sell that shit, guys. And even in to some level, again, with the rest of cryptocurrency as well, right? Or stocks or Bitcoin or whatever. Like if you're making life-changing gains, just be prepared to smash the sell button to help your life out. I know you might miss out on some gains. So I know I kind of speak out of two sides of my mouth on this. I know. But it's kind of like I'm trying to speak to you guys that are like almost never trade and you're just trying to like, benefit your life. And then I'm also trying to speak to the guys who are like sort of more active traders, right? So we kind of have to address those both things. So decide which camp you're in, decide, you don't have to be in a camp, but decide which kind of like mentality, what kind of strategy that you're personally using. But yeah, in general, there's probably still more gains to be had here. We could push sideways for a while. I don't think the macro crash is happening here in the next 2 weeks in December. I would be looking now towards January, but we'll see, right? We've got to be flexible. We'll see how that unfolds. But for now, like these charts, they all just say bull, right? They all say bullish. They're swiping up. So yeah, that's how I see the markets today. So let me hand it back over to Doug and Tux, gentlemen. Questions? Right. Maybe oh shit, I missed all of the.
See, I think there's a few super chats.
I've missed all the super chats, bro. I'm sorry.
All good, all good. There we go. Broken cog tip 350. If body is bearish on price, will the price go up again? Is this like an inverse Kramer, inverse body?
Yeah, if you want to do the inverse body strategy, that's totally possible. I mean, yeah, I mean, I've been talking about this macro crash for a while because all the signs have been developing, but at no point have we seen it look incipient, right? We haven't seen like the violent moves in the bond market yet, and we haven't seen oil crashing below kind of like the level that we're looking at. So it's kind of like it's coming, be ready, but we're just not quite there yet. So I don't know. I'm bullish right now. So is everything going to crash this week? It could.
Do you ever look at the coin market cap fear and greed index?
No, I don't. I never really liked the fear and greed index. I mean, I occasionally keep tabs on it. Yeah, like if there's extreme greed, like okay, mental note. Usually, if there's been extreme greed for a protracted time frame, that's definitely a bit of a signal.
Yeah, I guess it's probably not very helpful to you when you have all your scripts and your actual charts that you know where the data comes from. I think it's a funny thing.
Yeah, it can be useful.
And
A lot
someone
of
like
times
me,
what
it's
I
a
do is
pleb
just
that looks interesting.
yeah. A lot of times what I do is I sample Twitter and then just try to put my finger to the wind and see how the sentiment is.
Yep. Just see what people are saying.
Yeah, exactly. There's even people I follow just to like, because I think they're a good representation of a particular segment of the population. So I'm like, if I see what this guy is saying, that's going to tell me what a pretty big group of people are saying.
That's interesting. Let's see. Next. Healy Street tipped $1.23 and make money. If we had TTS, that would have been more funny.
I think that's make money 20x.
Something like that. Make money 20 times. I mean, some of these
Tip of the
coins
hat
are...
to Ray Youssef, who made that happen.
Oh yeah, that's what he's quoting. He's quoting. That's right. He's quoting Ray.
Yeah, when I accidentally looped Ray.
That's right. That's right. The body Ray incident.
Yeah. He's
Classic.
Like, I don't know if they just want to make money. That shit was
He knows
amazing.
what's up. Cypher Bliss tipped 25 cents. Q for body. What is the reason for your January crash concern? Are the 4-year cycles not in play? Could you further elaborate? I'm thinking sell 8% of various coins in 2025. April, buy back in July, sell November. What is different now?
Yeah, I feel like my time horizon here is not super clear. The reason that I say January crash is because I really feel like it wouldn't be as good. It feels like, so this is like deeply speculative. Okay, so just keep that in mind. It feels like it wouldn't be right to crash the market like a year into the Trump presidency, right? That feels weird. That feels like everyone's going to blame him. And, maybe, I don't know, like maybe there's nefarious entities in the background that actually want to make that happen. I just felt like, and I still kind of feel like it makes a lot of sense to hand Trump a crisis that they can use to leverage into emergency measures. It's what they do all the time. And everything's setting up that way. Like we've looked at all the macro that tells us that, like, hey, all the macro is saying that, like, we are moving towards this crash. Okay, it's not here yet. I guess macro tends to move pretty slowly. I would just play it by ear, man. Like, I wouldn't necessarily say, okay, I'm gonna sell exactly, and at this moment, I'm gonna sell 25% in April. The 4-year cycles, I guess, are still kind of in play. It feels like this one got front run, right? Like, it feels like it got a little bit front run in this case. Maybe not. The last one definitely did, right? Like Bitcoin topped out or was near the top way earlier than anyone expected. Yeah, we had the kind of echo boom later on that year. The 4-year cycle is in play-ish, but you just have to know that markets learn, and you don't want to bank on that, right? Like you want to keep in mind, but you don't want to bank on it. You always want to keep a flexible mentality to think, hey, I could be wrong here, and if I am wrong, what's going to happen, right? Am I still going to be able to make money? Am I still going to be okay if I'm wrong? So hopefully that answers clear enough answers the question. It's price, guys. Like when we talk about price and future, like we're trying to predict the future in markets that are at least partially efficient. And so it's like nobody knows like totally what's going to happen with price. There are some moments where you can be very confident of what's going to happen with price. But those moments they can be rare, right? They can be very rare. The top in 2021 for me was like, I was really confident in that. And the bottom, I was pretty confident in that too. Everything in between, I've kind of been like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, generally markets go up, so your safer play is just to be exposed, or at least make sure that you have some exposure to the market. But yeah, I mean, just know that like predicting the future is not easy. So
as there's more and more people predicting in the same ways, it becomes ironically harder to predict.
Yes. Yeah, that was like another reason too. Like for a long time, like I've had this wave magic for like a year before I shared it with you guys, because I was like, do I really want to share this with anyone? Like this is an edge. Like this helps me a lot. And I felt like, do I really want to put this out? Because it's not hard. It's not a hard concept. Like anyone with a little bit of programming knowledge and some dedication can make this on their own. Don't be stealing it from me. All rights reserved. Said the anarchist.
Yeah, right.
The anarchist that has copyrighted material.
The patent troll anarchist. All right, Body. Amazing as always.
Thanks, brother.
So yeah, I'm not sure what to think.
I think generally the market should be pressure towards the upside, generally drift up here. I think things are still optimistic across the board for the most part.
How about my simplistic thesis hunch that now could be a good time for Monero to kind of crawl up as the market kind of plateaus, languishes.
Yeah, I mean that's a reasonably good thesis. Monero does tend to hit in kind of fits and starts and countercyclically, right? Like we see the markets slow down and then Monero catches up, or sometimes in 2020 Monero pumped before everything, and then the rest of the markets performed while Monero was downtrending or sideways. So yeah, it's there is a good opportunity here. You're right. There's a very real possibility that Monero can hit some more gains here in the next couple weeks.
I mean, over the past year, it's been super easy to play Monero because of like that weird nature that it has, where I see most of the market will pump on something, and so I'll be like, oh, Monero hasn't yet, but it's going to like tomorrow or the next day, so I'll just it seems wise to pick up Monero at that. It's like you've got almost like a head start in a way in knowing what's going to happen because everything else moves, where Monero's just sitting there. And then sometimes Monero doesn't move at all. Sometimes it doesn't move at all. But it's finally doing something. The nothing ever happens crowd is very disappointed now in Monero.
Yeah,
It's
it's
actually doing something.
Did we poke it with the stick enough times finally?
Yeah, I am curious on one thing. I think I saw the single family residence chart earlier. It
Yeah,
looked
let me
like it
look at
was towards the down, but not all the way on that cycle. Yeah, kind of halfway between, I guess.
Yeah, it's sawtooth action. So this chart is very cyclical. So January is typically, or sorry, June is where it peaks out, and then it goes down. Usually the bottoms happen in January. So yeah, because I mean, springtime people typically start looking for houses February, March, and then you start seeing a lot of closes from like March to June or July.
It's
so
depressing looking at houses, man. Like, I mean, look at the 4-year on that fucking chart. That's ridiculous.
the 4-year. Oh, that's a long range. Let's go to 12 months.
I mean, not the 4-year, but like the 12, like over the past 4 years, doing like a 3-month chart, probably
Oh, gotcha,
or 1 month.
okay.
Yeah, there you go. If you compare like 2020 to now, I mean,
yeah, it's ridiculous.
it's crazy.
There's just not enough supply. I do think with the Trump administration, we'll see an uptick in supply as they get rid of a lot of the bureaucracy that essentially doesn't make it profitable to build.
Yeah, a lot of that's
So I
rendered
think
at the
there's
state
still
level, isn't it?
Yeah.
State, local, even. There's bureaucracy on
California,
all levels that make it expensive to essentially build homes.
It's almost like
There's
they're
like
trying to force
never
everyone
like
into the
a
city.
really a good time to buy at home. It seems like, unless you bought in 2020 when the interest rate was like the lowest it's historically ever been, right? It's like 2.5%.
Yeah. You know what I realized? One of the best times to buy a home actually would have been the top of the bull market in 2021. Like I know houses haven't really gone too much higher since then. So let's go back here. That would be right here, about the top of the bull market, right around here. I mean, you would be up 11% at this moment. But like, I just like in terms of like what to do with your cash, like if you're going to take profits at the top of a bull market, buying a property is probably a really good thing to do. Like you don't have to go to fiat. You can, I mean, you might need to go to fiat for a moment to make the trade, to buy the house or whatever. But yeah, like buying land, buying a house, like that would be a really good thing to do with profits from crypto. But not Monero, obviously not Monero.
Of course not. Never.
Can't take
unless you're
profits on
buying
stablecoin.
unless you're buying that land directly with Monero.
Now that, yeah, 100%.
No, that's
the
pretty
real
awesome.
economy.
I mean, the other thing is too, like, even though like housing market is up like crazy amounts compared to 4 years ago, like the 4-year gain is insane. It kind of sucks for first time home buyers. the other thing is that, oh, it might go down a bit, and it has gone down a little bit, but property and housing never really goes down because there's not ever going to be new land, right? I mean, this is it. So it's going to perpetually go up as long as the government's continuing to print trillions of dollars a year, and as long as there's demand for moving to certain areas, it will just continue to go up.
Housing should crash. I mean, we have the technology to freaking spit out homes, right? It's just artificially held back. In like a true free market, the cost of housing would be like,
well, even land
zero.
where I live, even
we
land
could
like
go
just
3D
buying,
print homes right now.
like just buying like like an acre or two is it's a lot of money. So just the
land, but the housing, right? I agree on the land, right? We're limited on the land, but technology is always improving with regards to building housing and making it cheaper, and so that should be going down.
Yeah, we need to bring back Sears homes. Where you could like order a house from the Sears catalog. I mean, that was like America. Come on, you could literally order a house from the Sears catalog. You could pick one out of like a dozen designs
for one gold coin.
Yeah, and then you could go and you could get your parts, and it was like it was kind of like what would you call it? Like not a modular house, but it was pre-planned out. But then you would go get the parts.
Yeah,
it's pre-selected.
Prefab.
Yeah, prefab. There you go.
Yeah, we need some prefab homes on XMR Bazaar. I just want to like at a click of a button, beep, get my home. Boop.
Put it on the blockchain. 3D print your house. Order it through Xano or DarkFi or whatever.
Oh my god, we're getting there, guys. We'll get there. All right, buddy. Thank you so much, man. Amazing insights. Hope people appreciate this. Yeah. Thank you.
We'll see you next week.